Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Cooking with Zenja. Thank you for joining me in this space to introduce some really fun and delicious recipes to you. I have some great appetizers, entrees, and desserts that are gonna fill your soul and keep a smile in your heart and on your face. So we are starting off today with a stuffed kale and cheese mushroom, and then we're gonna follow that with a curry pineapple fried rice, and ending the day with a really delicious and moist carrot cake topped with a cream cheese frosting. So we're gonna get started with some really delicious baked stuffed mushrooms. We're gonna do kale and cheese. This is actually one of my favorite recipes, usually with crab meat. But for all the vegetarians out there, I wanna let you know we can still be full and delicious without adding any additional proteins. So I'm just gonna finely slice a couple of garlic cloves. I'm gonna use about 2 or 3, but I just love garlic, so you definitely do not need that many. And you want them sliced pretty finely so you don't taste huge chunks of garlic in your mouth when you bite in, unless you're into that kind of stuff, of course. Set that to the side, and now we're gonna chop our kale up. I say 1 to 2 cups is a pretty decent amount because we're gonna pan sear this a little bit, and you know that spinach and kale shrinks a lot when you cook it. So we wanna get as much as we can to stuff into these mushrooms. These don't need to be super finely chopped, but you definitely don't wanna put the entire leaf into the pan. And of course, we're gonna have to go on ahead and get the roots peeled out of our mushroom. Be gentle with them. They're firm, but they're soft as well, so you don't want to rip the entire thing apart. And then we can go on ahead and get our Leo Carius olive oil coated into the pan so that the mushrooms don't stick. And then of course, to add a little bit of extra flavor, you can't go wrong with olive oil. And once the pits are all taken out of the mushrooms, or the roots are taken out of all of the mushrooms, we can just set them in the pan and get ready to sear our kale and garlic. Once we have all the pits and the roots taken out of our mushrooms, we're just gonna coat them with a little bit more of our olive oil. And I think that the oil, when you have it in the oven baking, it adds just a little bit more softness to it, so they're not too firm to bite. And once those are all coated in olive oil, we just take a little bit of our garlic and Himalayan salt mixture. Just a few pinches, you don't want it to be too salty. And a little bit of pepper to taste as well. And now we just set these to the side and go on ahead and sear our garlic and kale. Now we're gonna go ahead and get that garlic and kale sauteed up. We don't need to cook it for very long. You know, greens just need a few moments on the stove. So we're gonna start with some olive oil. Let that warm up for a bit, and make sure that it's coated evenly across the entire pan as well. So we can just go ahead and let that olive oil warm up on the stove for about a minute until it's warm enough to put our ingredients in. And I hear a little bit of a sizzle, so I'm gonna start adding things to the pan now. Are about 1 to 2 cups of kale and 3 cloves of garlic. They're gonna take absolutely no time to cook. We just need them to soften up enough so we can pop them inside of the stuffed mushroom. And then again, a little bit of Himalayan garlic salt and black pepper to taste. Once the kale is a bright green and evenly coated with the olive oil, then it's just about ready to come out. The garlic can be still a little bit raw. We don't need it to cook thoroughly. If you've ever sauteed any kind of green before, then you know that a little bit does not go a long way. I did have to grab a few more leaves and add it to my pan, but it doesn't take but a moment to cook. So that's not gonna interrupt the recipe at all, and it's just about done. Once we have that kale and garlic sauteed, we're just gonna add it to a pan so that we combine the additional ingredients that we need to stuff our mushrooms. And now we're gonna have a little bit over a cup of breadcrumb, a cup of your favorite cheese. I'm using Parmesan, and just a little bit of olive oil to combine everything together. Mix that bad boy up. Just a tiny bit more olive oil for moisture. Okay, and once we have a pretty stable consistency, we can go on ahead and scoop a couple of tablespoons of our kale, garlic, and cheese mixture into the mushrooms. You can definitely use a spoon and fork. I feel like your hand is a better alternative to get these really stuffed in without anything overflowing onto the pan. And then I'm just topping each mushroom off with a little bit more cheese, because you can't go wrong with a little bit more cheese. You want to get the mushroom stuffed so that the entire center of it is filled and then a little bit overflowing. The kale is going to cook a little bit smaller in the oven while it bakes, so we can pop these in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes until they're a nice golden brown color. It's been about 10 to 15 minutes. Our stuffed mushrooms should be all set to come out of the oven, so let me go grab them. It's been about 10 to 15 minutes. Our mushrooms are a nice light golden brown color. The breadcrumb and cheese both have a nice little crisp to it, so we just let these cool for a minute or two and they're all set to eat. So now we're gonna move on to our entree, which is gonna be a spicy curry pineapple fried rice. I had this recipe in Thailand last summer and absolutely fell in love, so I had to try it for myself. We do have some pineapples that have already been pre-gut, so I got all of the juicy fruit out of it, and we're gonna actually use these for our plate. So I'm going to pop these in the oven so they can warm up. That way they'll be hot and ready for our rice once we get it cooked up. And now we're ready to get our pineapple, vegetables, and fried rice cooked up so we can scoop it back into our edible bowls and get ready to indulge. I'm gonna add some olive oil to my pan. You absolutely can use whatever kind of oil you desire. Let this warm in the pan for about 60 seconds. You just wanna make sure that it's a nice sizzle when you're ready to drop your peppers inside. And then let me explain everything that we are adding to our entree. Here I have some frozen mixed vegetables. It's gonna be a variety of corn, carrots, string beans, and peas. A few slices of asparagus, our pineapple of course, white onion, green pepper, and red onion. I feel like the more color, the more flavor, the better. So once this is a nice temperature, we can go on ahead and start adding our onions and peppers, as well as our mushroom and pineapple. I also have a couple of garlic cloves that I'm gonna add in there as well. The peppers, onion, garlic, and mushroom you want to cook until they're just a little bit soft. I feel like a little bit of crunch adds some more texture to the entree, so they don't need to be super soft or super cooked all the way through either. You can start smelling all the aromas of the different flavors, peppers and herbs that are in here. Once those are all mixed up, we can also add our mixed vegetables and pineapple as well. Let them warm up and cook together. And this mixture will just saute for about 10 minutes until the pineapple is thoroughly cooked through. One of my favorite things about this dish is that the texture of both the pineapple and the mushroom kind of give you that nice substitution of having a chicken or a shrimp in here, so you don't have to worry about adding any additional protein like I mentioned before. So once we have our vegetables, fruits, and herbs sauteed up in the pan, then we're gonna go on ahead and add some white rice. And I'm using about 1.5 cups of white rice. And now we're gonna go ahead and pop all of our seasonings in to make sure we have the optimal amount of flavor. Red pepper flakes for spice, of course. We have some chili powder. Cayenne pepper for more spice. I think that the spicier it is, or the spiciness kind of combats the sweetness, so you get a sweet and spicy flavor. Some chili powder. A little bit more for color. Paprika. And just a little bit more Himalayan garlic and salt. And a pinch of pepper for taste. Mix all of these flavors together. I find this soy sauce also adds a nice dash of color to this, but the rice frying itself up is also going to do that same thing and have a similar effect. Mix everything together. Make sure that the rice does touch the bottom of the pan, so instead of just the boiled flavor, you get a little bit of the texture from its frying. And there we have it. Our rice is nice and fried up. Our pineapples and vegetables are warm and cooked. Let's grab those pineapple out of the oven so we can get them plated. The time that it takes to fry our rice, our vegetables, our peppers and onions is the same amount of time that we can have our pineapple in the oven. That way it's warming up while we're preparing our entree. And it works because the pineapple that we're using as an edible plate is actually nice and hot instead of it being cool and having warm food transferred into a cold dish. So we scoop it in and we're just about ready to eat. I love all these colors. That we have going on here as well. It's gonna spill over a little bit, but that's okay. Make sure we get some pineapple in there so you can taste the sweet and the spice. And there you have it, curry pineapple fried rice. And now we're gonna hop right into dessert. I'm gonna be making a very moist and delicious carrot cake with a cream cheese frosting. I don't have a huge sweet tooth, but I love vegetables, so this can be your kind of guilty pleasure. You can pretend that you're eating healthy by having a vegetable with your snack. So let's go on ahead and get right into it. So with the carrot cake, you're gonna wanna put your dry ingredients in one bowl and then the wet ingredients in a separate one. So here we have 2 cups of flour, all-purpose flour works. And then I'm gonna be using 1 cup of sugar, white sugar, and then 1 cup of brown sugar, which you're gonna pack really tightly into that cup. Now we have some baking soda, nutmeg, and cinnamon that we're adding in for flavor, and a dash of salt. I have some crushed walnuts, but I'm just gonna take a knife to grind them up a little more finely so you're not chewing on huge chunks of anything with your carrot cake. No particular method, they don't need to be diced or super fine. You just want them much smaller, whatever size you purchase them with. You also can, of course, have the option of just purchasing finely chopped walnuts, pecans, whatever type of nut that you prefer. Of course, if you have a nut allergy, you can do it without these, but I really like the little bit of crunch that these add to the recipe. I'm using walnuts. We're gonna do about 1 cup of freshly chopped walnuts and add that to our dry ingredients as well. Just stir all this together to get our flour, sugar, nuts, cinnamon, and baking soda all tossed into one fluffy consistency. right, set that to the side, and now we can jump into our wet ingredients. I have 4 large eggs that I'm just gonna whisk together in a separate bowl. So once we get those eggs whisked all together, we can go on ahead and add the additional wet ingredients. I have 1 cup of oil, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I like to add a little bit of maple syrup for taste, half a cup of softened butter, and just grab a fork to squish that down a little bit so it blends really well. So in our wet ingredient bowl, we do have our eggs, oil, vanilla extract, and now I'm gonna add 2 cups of carrots. I grated these up so that they are very fine and you don't taste huge chunks, but of course you can slice them. I think grating is the best way to go about it. And we just whisk all that together in our wet ingredient bowl. And then once we have a nice consistency, we go on ahead and combine all the ingredients together, the dry and wet. Once we have all the wet ingredients in one large bowl, we just go on ahead and combine those until they are one thick consistency together. And I would just go on ahead and stir this as much as you can because you want to see to it that the flour is completely blended into our wet batter. And there should be really just none of the white powder showing at all. And now we can go on ahead and get our nonstick pan coated with some nonstick spray and get ready to pop this bad boy in the oven for about 30 minutes. Smooth it out so it's coated across the pan evenly. Carrots, as I mentioned, are one of my favorite vegetables. I swear the women in my family is something in our DNA. From carrot juice to carrot cake or just plain carrots to chew on and snack on. It's a really delicious snack vegetable side. You really can't go wrong. You can add carrots to some of your favorite entrees, clearly some of your favorite desserts. And they have really good benefits for you. I know they're packed with vitamin K and are really great for your eyesight, allegedly. So we're gonna pop this in the oven and get our cream cheese frosting started. Once we get our carrot cake out of the oven, we give it about 15 minutes to cool down. I like to flip it upside down on a cooling pan and then slice off a layer of cake so that it sits evenly onto the plate. And then we just top it with a nice cream cheese frosting. I feel like cream cheese and carrot cake, since as long as I can remember, has always been a perfect combination. And now we can give the carrot cake a nice little taste test. Perfect. Thank you once again for spending your time and energy in this space with me. I really hope you enjoy these delicious and nutritious recipes. You can find me on Instagram at Queen Zenja. That's QueenZenja, and also search Cooking with Zenja on YouTube.com. Y'all stay beautiful on the inside and out. Peace.